On the surface, the Olympic Winter Games of 2022 appear to be Olympic Games just like any others. But at second glance, this year's Olympic Games revealed the real face of China, as well as the new global power balance. This new global power balance has massive consequences for our lives, our careers, and our investments. And it's even one of the factors that led me to quit my job in China some weeks ago. Comparing the Olympic Summer Games in China in 2008 versus the Olympic Winter Games in 2022 revealed some key differences. They can teach us a lot about China and the position it wants to take on the global stage. And I know that some of my followers are considering building a career in China at some point. You should factor the current developments into your long-term career master plan. First off, you might say that the Olympics are not about politics.
To your second question, the Uyghur population, there again the position of the IOC must be, given the political neutrality, that we are not commenting on political issues.
Except they are. Olympics are all about politics and power, and have been since the first Olympic Games in 1896.
The modern games got started in 1896 by French aristocrat Pierre de Coubertin as a way of reviving Gallic national pride after his country got its ass kicked by Germany in the Franco-Prussian War.
What kind of power play were we able to observe at the 2022 Olympics? In business, so-called war games simulate moves and counter-moves of the competition to figure out who will win in a certain business scenario. The Olympics are a perfect war game for the global power distribution. Imagine for a second that you are the autocratic ruler of a country that has lifted hundreds of millions of its people out of poverty. Actually, let's make it a bit more relatable. Imagine that you have a class reunion. During school, you have always been kind of lame. No good grades, not cool, no success with the girls, not even shredded. Now, 10 years later, there's a class reunion and you got your shit together. Awesome participating career. Charismatic as fuck. Hot wifey and 3 digits kilograms on the scale. Shredded. How are you going to behave? Most probably you would go there, proud of what you accomplished, maybe even a bit overconfident. If someone would tell you how to live your life, how to handle conflicts with some of your relatives, you would most probably tell them to shut up. This is exactly China at the Olympics in 2008 versus in 2022.
China, the most powerful authoritarian state, will be hosting the Winter Olympics, and it will attempt to use the spectacle to score a propaganda victory for its system of strict controls.
And I could observe this increased confidence not only during the Olympic Games, but over the past years that I have been living in China. Forget about learning English. The president of prestigious Tsinghua University in Beijing came under fire last summer after sending each new student a Chinese language copy of Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea. Some social media users questioned why he would choose the work of an American author, or why he didn't encourage the students to study for China's rise. Beijing rejected some health protocols recommended by the International Olympic Committee and is pursuing its own outbreak control strategy that seeks mostly to minimize Chinese people's exposure to foreigners arriving for the Games. And unlike in 2008, Beijing has not made any high-profile promises of human rights improvements. What's more, there's no end in sight when it comes to the travel restrictions between China and the rest of the world. So much so that even extreme pro-China vloggers conclude that it would be nice to be able to cross borders again at some point.
It is a shame because, you know, I've had a niece that's been born like 6 or 7 months ago, and I've not been able to see her. I've not been able to see my family or friends for over 2 years now. And it's kind of weighing on us, you know.
So what will the future bring for China? How is the global power landscape going to look like? In order to answer these questions, we need to look at arguably the most powerful man in the world, Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping is a personal hero of mine, not because I agree with his worldview, which I don't, but because he is a beautiful case study of how you can rise up from a relatively modest background to accumulating a demigod-like amount of power. And with it, money, of course.
What is more important, more impactful, money or power?
They go hand in hand. They support each other and they compete with each other.
He sits atop a pyramid of 87 million members of his party, larger than the population of Germany. And here's the number one thing Xi hates. Over the years of his career, he has become more confident. The number one thing that sets him up is foreign nations and leaders telling him how to rule his country.
At the same time, the Chinese people will never allow any foreign forces to bully, oppress or enslave us. Anyone who dares to try to do that will have their heads bashed blooded against the Great Wall of Steel, forged by over 1.4 billion Chinese people.
He doesn't want to fit into a global order where democratic values are upheld. He wants to build an alternative order where autocratic norms are legitimized. He does not want China to play a bigger role on the global stage. He wants to change the stage itself. And he's partnering with powerful allies to do so, while the West is trying to get their shit together.
We wasted 20 years trying to do nation building in the Middle East. We wasted $6 trillion on that. How did China, lose by not being part of that? They benefited. They were building Belt and Road while we were, engaged in this foolish interventions in the Middle East. And now more recently with Putin, we've really driven Putin into Xi's arms because we keep threatening to add Ukraine to NATO, which is not something that's in America's interest. If we would just give up on that position or just reaffirm that Ukraine should not be admitted to NATO, it would enormously help diffuse tensions with Russia.
And with that, Xi Jinping might be the perfect target to study, career-wise of course, in some of our upcoming videos. And so the message is clear. We are holding the Olympic Games on time, with 0 COVID cases, on our own terms, perfect execution. The sad consequence of all of this? We see an increased bifurcation between how the world sees China versus how China thinks the world sees China. Check this out. Most polls are pretty clear. China is being viewed quite unfavorably internationally in recent years. Now, a recent poll asked Chinese people, how do you think China is viewed internationally? And the common opinion in China is that China is viewed positively. Other nations look up to China and want to emulate its success. Excellent PR work. China. Good or evil? Land of opportunities? What about human rights? Should you do business in or with China? Let's begin. Just check for yourself and make sure the money is right.